Hey Reddit. I honestly don't know where to start, and I'm not sure what to do next, but I feel like I need to tell someone what's been happening. I've been married to my wife, Emily, 30F, for 5 years. We've had a really good relationship, at least, that's what I thought. We've built a life together, bought a house, traveled a bit, and even adopted a dog a year ago. Everyone we know thinks we have this perfect marriage, but now I'm starting to question everything. It all started last week when I needed to grab something from my wife's car. I can't remember exactly what it was, probably something small, like her sunglasses or a charger, but I decided to clean out the back seat while I was at it. I wasn't snooping, but Emily's car is usually pretty messy, so I thought it might be a good idea to tidy it up. That's when I found it, a second phone, tucked underneath the passenger seat, wrapped in a cloth. I froze when I saw it. I immediately thought, why would she need two phones? At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was an old phone. Maybe it was for work. Maybe she just kept it for emergencies. But deep down, I knew I had to find out what was going on. I didn't touch it right away. I told myself I'd ask her about it later when we were alone. But that didn't happen. As the day went on, I found myself fixated on it. I couldn't get the thought out of my head. Why would she keep a phone hidden in her car? Was it for someone else? Was she hiding something from me? When Emily came home later that evening, I didn't bring it up immediately. I told myself I needed to stay calm and wait for the right moment to confront her. But the more I thought about it, the more my mind raced with possibilities. I had to know if my suspicions were true. I decided to take a look at the phone when she went to bed. That night, after Emily went to bed, I quietly grabbed the phone from the car and brought it inside. I didn't want to look through it, but I couldn't help myself. My heart was pounding in my chest as I unlocked it. To my surprise, there was no password, no fingerprint lock. It was wide open. The first thing I saw was a series of recent text messages. I'm not proud of what I did next. I shouldn't have gone through her phone, but I was so overwhelmed with curiosity and suspicion that I felt like I had no choice. The messages were from a guy named Ethan, someone I didn't know. They weren't just casual texts either. They were intimate, flirtatious, and they went back a few months. Here are some of the messages that stuck with me. Ethan, can't wait to see you this weekend. I miss you. Red heart. Emily, I miss you too. Let's make it special this time. We'll get a hotel room like last time, but we should try to make it last longer. I want to be with you more. Ethan, that sounds perfect. I'll book the room. I can't wait to see you again. You're everything I've wanted. I kept scrolling through the texts, but I couldn't stomach anymore. My hands were shaking as I read the words. What was going on? Why had Emily been seeing this guy behind my back? My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Had I been blind to everything happening right under my nose? It wasn't just the messages that bothered me, it was the level of intimacy in them. The way they spoke to each other made it clear that this wasn't just a casual fling. They were talking about meeting up regularly, making plans for the future. The hotel room comment made my stomach turn. How could she do this? I thought we were happy. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but I knew I had to be careful. I didn't want to make any rash decisions. I needed more evidence. I needed to understand what I was dealing with before I accused her of anything. The next morning, I was a mess. I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd found. I felt like I didn't know Emily anymore, like everything we'd built was a lie. But at the same time, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. There had to be an explanation. I wanted to believe that this was just some misunderstanding or a one-time thing. But deep down, I knew I had to face the reality that maybe it wasn't. I started thinking about how I would approach her. Should I show her the phone and ask her directly? Should I pretend nothing had happened and wait to see if she confessed? I didn't know what the right thing to do was. That evening, I decided to try something. I'd ask her casually about the phone. No accusations, no confrontation, just a simple question. I wanted to see how she would respond. The next day was one of the hardest of my life. I kept replaying everything in my head, the texts, the hotel room plans, the hidden phone, and the more I thought about it, the more it all seemed real. I had to confront Emily, but I didn't know how to do it without completely unraveling everything. I spent most of the day pretending that nothing was wrong, but my mind was elsewhere. Every time Emily walked into the room, I had this knot in my stomach. I wanted to ask her about Ethan, about the phone, about everything, but I didn't want to just accuse her outright without hearing her side first. That evening, Emily and I sat down to dinner. She was chatting about her day, mentioning that work had been busy and she was looking forward to the weekend. I barely heard her. My mind was consumed with one thing. How do I bring this up? Finally, after we'd finished eating, I decided it was now or never. Hey, Emily, can we talk about something? I asked, trying to sound casual. She raised an eyebrow, her fork pausing midair. Sure, what's up? I took a deep breath. I've been thinking a lot about something, and I just need you to be honest with me. She put her fork down, her expression changing. Okay, what's going on? I hesitated, unsure how to approach this without making her defensive. I found something in your car the other day, a phone. A second phone. Her face went pale, and for a moment, she didn't say anything. I could see the panic starting to form in her eyes. She opened her mouth to speak, but quickly closed it again, as if she was weighing her options. What is this about, Emily? I asked, my voice trembling now. I need to know the truth. Who is Ethan? She froze. That was all the confirmation I needed. Her eyes darted to the side, avoiding mine. I don't know how to explain this, she said softly, her voice cracking. It's not what you think. I felt my heart drop. Not what I think? I repeated. How's this not what I think, Emily? I found messages. Hotel plans. Text saying you miss him. That's not something I can just ignore. She sat back in her chair, taking a deep breath. I've been seeing him, she said quietly. For the past 6 months. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. 6 months? I couldn't even process it at first. I had to stop myself from yelling, from demanding answers right then and there. The room felt like it was spinning. Why? I finally asked, my voice barely audible. Why would you do this to me? To us. Tears filled her eyes. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I never meant for this to happen. It just did. Ethan and I met through work. He's been a friend for a while, and I guess. I don't know. Things started happening between us. I never planned for it to get this far. But it did get this far, Emily, I said, my voice shaking. You were sneaking around with him for months. How could you do this? Why couldn't you just talk to me about how you were feeling? I was ashamed, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know how to tell you. We've been growing apart for a while, and I felt so lonely. I was getting attention from Ethan, and it made me want it again. But I didn't want to hurt you. I stared at her in disbelief. Lonely? I repeated. So, instead of coming to me, you decided to lie and sneak around behind my back? How is that supposed to make any sense? I know, she said, her face crumpling. I know it doesn't make sense. I wasn't thinking clearly. I didn't want to lose you, but I didn't know how to fix what was broken between us. And now, I've messed everything up. I didn't know how to respond. The anger I felt was overwhelming, but it was also mixed with deep sadness. The woman I had married, the woman I thought I knew, had been lying to me for months, betraying my trust in the worst possible way. Do you love him? I asked quietly. I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer, but I had to know. She looked at me, her eyes filled with regret. No, she said quickly. I love you. I swear. But I didn't feel loved by you. And I felt guilty about it every day. Ethan was a way for me to escape, and I know it was wrong. The weight of her words hit me again, and I felt like I was suffocating. How had I not seen this coming? How had I been so blind to what was happening right under my nose? I stood up and walked away from the table, needing space to breathe. I needed time to process what I had just heard, to come to terms with the fact that everything I thought I knew about my marriage was a lie. I don't know what to do with this, Emily, I said, turning back to face her. I don't know how to look at you the same way anymore. I don't know if I can forgive you for this. She stood up, rushing over to me. Please, she pleaded, her voice desperate. I know I've hurt you, but I'll do anything to fix this. I love you. I made a mistake, and I'm so sorry. I could see the pain in her eyes, but I wasn't sure if I could believe it. She had broken my trust in a way that felt irreparable. How could I move forward with someone who had been lying to me for months, keeping a secret life from me? I need time, I said finally. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now, but I need time to think. I need to figure out if this is something we can fix. The night of our confrontation, I barely slept. My mind was a jumbled mess of anger, sadness, and confusion. I kept thinking about all the little signs I must have missed, the late nights at work, the random texts, her distance. How had I been so oblivious to what was going on? Why didn't she come to me before it all went this far? When I woke up the next morning, I found myself staring at the ceiling, dreading the conversation we had to have. Emily had slept on the couch that night, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to face her again. But I knew we needed to talk. We couldn't go on pretending everything was normal. I got up, made some coffee, and sat in the living room, trying to organize my thoughts. Part of me still didn't want to believe it was real, that maybe it was all a bad dream. But the evidence, the phone, the messages was undeniable. When Emily came into the room, she looked exhausted. She had dark circles under her eyes, and her shoulders were hunched, like she was carrying the weight of the world on her. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice shaky. I nodded, but I didn't know where to begin. I didn't even know what I wanted to say to her. "I've been thinking," I said slowly, "about what you said last night. About everything. And I can't just sweep it under the rug. What you did, it's not something I can easily forget." "I know," she whispered, sitting down beside me. "I don't expect you to just forgive me. I know I've hurt you in a way that can't be undone. But please, let me explain. Let me show you that I'm sorry." I didn't look at her. Instead, I stared at my hands, trying to hold myself together. "What do you want me to say? That I'm shocked? That I didn't see this coming? Because honestly, Emily, I'm devastated. I feel like I don't even know who you are anymore." Her voice cracked. "I know. And I've been living with that guilt for weeks. I never wanted to hurt you. I should have been honest with you from the start. But I didn't know how to stop. I was scared of what I was doing, and I was scared of losing you." "Scared of losing me?" I said, my voice rising. "You did lose me, Emily. You made that choice, and you decided to keep it a secret. You've been lying to me for months. What was I supposed to think? How do I trust you again after everything?" She looked down at her hands, her tears falling freely. "I'm sorry. I can't say it enough. I never meant for it to go this far. I want to fix this, and I'll do whatever it takes. I'll go to therapy. I'll be open with you. I'll answer any questions you have. But please, don't give up on us. I love you." The words were there, but they didn't feel like enough. She was asking for a second chance, but how could I give that to her when my trust in her had been shattered? The person I had loved and trusted was now the same person who had betrayed me in the most hurtful way possible. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Emily," I said finally, my voice breaking. "I don't know if I can ever see you the same way again." The next few days were filled with tension. Emily tried everything she could think of to make things right. She'd send me texts throughout the day, asking if I was okay, telling me how much she loved me and how sorry she was. But each time, it felt like I was getting farther and farther from her. The truth of what she had done was eating away at me. I couldn't pretend like nothing had happened. Every time she touched me or smiled at me, I felt nothing but betrayal. I couldn't get the image of her with Ethan out of my head. Even though she was doing everything right now, being transparent, apologizing, even offering to go to therapy, it didn't erase the fact that she had been hiding this life from me. It was in one of these moments, while we were sitting in silence in our living room, that I realized something important. I needed space. I needed time to think about whether I could ever trust her again, or if this was the end. I couldn't make that decision right now, and I certainly couldn't make it with her constantly around. She had betrayed me, and I had to decide if I was willing to try and rebuild, or if I needed to walk away. When I finally worked up the courage to speak, I sat her down again. "Emily, I need to be clear about something," I said, my voice steady. "I don't know if I can stay in this marriage right now. I don't know if I can rebuild trust after what you've done. I need space to think." Her face fell. "What do you mean, space?" she asked, panic creeping into her voice. "You're not leaving me, are you?" "I'm not saying I'm leaving," I said, my heart breaking. "But I need time to think. I need to figure out what I want. I don't want to make any decisions right now. I need to know if I can forgive you, if we can even work through this." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand," she whispered. "I'm so sorry for everything. I'll give you the space you need, but please know I'll do anything to make this right." I spent the next few days in a haze of confusion and hurt. I didn't know where to turn, and I didn't know what the future held for Emily and me. I loved her, but I didn't know if I could ever look at her the same way. The image of her with Ethan was burned into my mind, and the thought of her betrayal hurt too much. I started questioning everything about our relationship. Were there other secrets I didn't know about? Had I really been that naive, that trusting? How could I have missed something so big? I leaned on my family and close friends for support, and it was their advice that helped me start to put things into perspective. They reminded me that while forgiveness is possible, it has to come from both sides. It's not just about doing the right things, it's about showing consistency and building trust over time. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for that, or if I ever would be. The days after I told Emily I needed space were some of the hardest of my life. I felt completely disconnected from her, and honestly, I didn't know where to turn. My mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, anger, sadness, confusion, guilt. I loved her, but I couldn't ignore the fact that she had completely betrayed my trust. I kept wondering if I could ever see her the same way again, or if this was the end of our marriage. I started spending more time away from the house, going for walks, visiting friends, and even taking a trip to my parents' house for a few days. It felt like I needed to get out of the environment where everything had fallen apart. I wasn't sure what I was hoping for, some sort of clarity, a sign that this was fixable, or perhaps just a break from the overwhelming emotions. I was exhausted, and I felt like I was drowning in my own thoughts. Every time I checked my phone, there would be a text from Emily. "I miss you. I'm so sorry. Please let me know when you're ready to talk." The messages were always filled with regret, but they didn't change anything. I wasn't sure I even wanted to talk to her. What was there to say? How could I find the words to explain all the pain and disappointment I was feeling? One evening, I was sitting at my parents' house, watching TV with my mom, when I got a call from Emily. It was late, and I didn't feel like answering, but something inside me told me I should. I picked up the phone, my heart racing. "Hello," I said, my voice a little shaky. "Hi," Emily said softly. "I know you've asked for space, and I respect that. But I just wanted to tell you that I'm still here, and I'm still committed to trying to make things right. I've been thinking a lot about everything we've gone through, and I don't want to give up on us. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it, anyway." Her words were raw, filled with emotion. I could hear the sincerity in her voice, but I wasn't sure if it was enough. I wasn't sure if it would ever be enough. I stayed silent for a moment, trying to collect my thoughts. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Emily," I said finally, my voice quieter now. "I don't know if I can ever get over what you did. It's not just the affair, it's the lying, the secret life, everything you kept hidden from me. I thought we had something solid, and now I don't know what's real anymore." "I know," she said quietly, "and I don't expect you to forgive me right away. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving, and I want to work through this, even if it takes years. I want to prove to you that I can be the person you thought I was." I wasn't ready to make any promises, but for the first time since everything happened, I felt a small glimmer of hope. It was painful, but I realized that maybe we could rebuild. Maybe we could move past this, but only if I could find a way to forgive her, and if she could show me that she was truly committed to changing. "I'm going to need time," I said, "but I'll think about what you said. We'll talk more when I'm ready." She thanked me, and we hung up. That conversation didn't fix everything, but it was a step. A small step, but a step nonetheless. After that call, I came back home and sat down with Emily to talk more seriously about what had happened. She had been patient, and it was clear that she was fully committed to making amends. She promised that she'd cut all ties with Ethan, and she even agreed to go through marriage counseling with me. We started seeing a therapist, Dr. Richards, a few weeks after that. The sessions weren't easy. Every question felt like a punch to the gut, and every answer felt like another layer of our marriage being peeled back. But they were necessary. Emily admitted that she'd been emotionally disconnected from me for a long time before the affair started. She also explained that she had never intended for it to turn physical, but as it went on, she got caught up in the excitement and the attention Ethan was giving her. For me, the hardest part of the therapy sessions was learning to hear her side of things. I'd spent so much time feeling angry and hurt that I hadn't fully listened to why she did what she did. That didn't excuse her actions, but it helped me understand the bigger picture. It helped me see the cracks in our relationship, and it gave me a clearer view of where I needed to change as well. For my part, I admitted that I had neglected our emotional connection. I had been so wrapped up in my own work and responsibilities that I didn't notice how distant Emily was becoming. I didn't take her concerns seriously when she did try to talk to me about them. While that didn't justify her actions, it helped me recognize that our issues weren't one-sided. We also talked about what trust would look like moving forward. Emily agreed to be fully transparent about her actions, no more hidden phones, no more lies, and no more secrets. She was ready to take full accountability for what she'd done. But she also asked me to be patient, knowing that it would take time for her to rebuild my trust and for me to fully heal. It's been about 3 months since the affair was exposed. While there have been moments of doubt and sadness, we've also had some breakthroughs. Emily has been doing everything she can to show me that she's committed to making our marriage work. We've been spending more time together, cooking meals, taking walks, doing the things that made us fall in love in the first place. I can't say that everything is perfect, or that I'm fully healed yet. There are still days when the pain comes rushing back, when I remember the messages and the lies. But I'm trying. We're both trying. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm cautiously optimistic that, with time and effort, we might be able to rebuild what we once had. I've come to realize that healing from this kind of betrayal isn't easy. It requires patience, openness, and a lot of tough conversations. But I'm learning to take it one day at a time. As the months passed, things between Emily and me continued to improve. Slowly, I began to notice small but significant changes. She was more attentive, more present, and more open about her feelings. She checked in with me regularly, not just about logistical things, but about how I was feeling emotionally. And though I wasn't always ready to share, I could see that she genuinely wanted to rebuild what we had lost. For my part, I had my good days and my bad days. There were moments when I'd catch myself smiling again, remembering the fun, carefree times we had shared. But there were also days when the pain of what happened would come rushing back, and I'd feel like I was starting all over again. Healing from betrayal is a tricky thing. It doesn't happen in a straight line. One day, a few weeks after we had started seeing progress, Emily suggested that we take a short weekend trip to a nearby town, just the two of us. It was a way for us to get away from the usual stresses, to reconnect and enjoy each other's company. At first, I wasn't sure if I was ready. Part of me thought that being alone together might make things feel too raw. But the other part of me knew that it was important for us to try. I agreed to go, but with one condition: no phone calls or contact with anyone outside of the trip. It wasn't that I didn't trust her. I just needed to create some space where it was just us. No distractions, no outside influences, no secrets. Emily was completely on board with the idea, and that felt like a good sign. We spent the weekend walking through quaint shops, eating at small local restaurants, and talking about our hopes for the future. It wasn't all easy. There were still awkward silences, moments when I could tell we were both thinking about the past, but it felt like a step in the right direction. On the way home, Emily turned to me and said, "I'm so glad we did this. I know I've messed up, but I love you. I'll do whatever it takes to prove that to you." I smiled, though part of me was still unsure. "I love you too," I said, "but I need you to know that it's going to take time. I can't just flip a switch and forget what happened. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forget, but I'm willing to try." Over the next few weeks, Emily and I spent more time talking about the emotional side of our relationship. We both opened up about our fears, our insecurities, and the ways we had been neglecting each other before the affair. For Emily, she admitted that she had struggled with feeling unimportant in my life, and that she had sought validation from someone else. For me, I had to confront the fact that I hadn't been as emotionally available to her as I should have been, and that I had taken our relationship for granted. Therapy continued to be a big part of our journey. In our sessions, Dr. Richards encouraged us to have open and honest conversations, even when it was hard. Emily shared more about how she felt during the affair, and I shared how deeply betrayed I felt. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. We had to face the hard truths if we were ever going to move forward. One night, a few weeks after the trip, I found myself struggling with something I hadn't expected: the what-ifs. What if Emily hadn't made the choices she had? What if she had communicated better, and we had fixed things before the affair happened? What if I had been more present for her? Would things be different? I voiced my feelings to Emily during another therapy session. "I keep going over the past in my head," I admitted. "What if I had done something differently? What if we had just talked before everything exploded?" Emily took my hand and looked at me. I ask myself the same thing every day. I keep thinking about how I could have stopped it before it went too far, but I didn't. And I hate myself for it. But what I can control now is how I move forward. What we do moving forward. Her words were a reminder that we couldn't change the past. All we could do was work on making the present and future better. And though I didn't have all the answers, I realized that maybe the most important thing was that we were both willing to fight for each other. As time went on, the emotional weight of the affair started to feel more manageable. There were still moments of doubt, of course. I still had trouble fully trusting her at times, especially when it came to little things like her phone or the way she spent time away from home. But I also realized that trust wasn't something that would be restored in one grand gesture. It would take daily effort on both sides. We kept working at it. Emily showed me, day by day, that she was committed to proving she could be trusted again. She took responsibility for what happened, and she continued to show me affection and love in ways that reassured me. She made it clear that her actions were not a reflection of our marriage, but of her own personal struggles and weaknesses at the time. One evening, a few months after everything came to light, Emily came home from work with a surprise. She had bought us 2 tickets to a concert we had talked about going to years ago but never made it to. "I know we've been through a lot," she said, handing me the tickets, "but I want to make new memories with you. I want to show you that we can still have fun together and enjoy life." I didn't know if we were fully healed, or if we ever would be. But I realized that we were moving forward. Slowly, cautiously, but we were moving forward together. And for the first time in months, I felt like there was hope. It's been about 6 months since everything happened. Emily and I are still working through our issues, but we've come a long way. The affair still stings, and there are still moments of doubt. But there are also moments of connection, laughter, and love, things that were hard to come by when everything felt broken. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if we'll ever fully get over the affair, but I do know that we're both willing to put in the work. Whether that leads to complete healing or a new direction, I don't know. But for now, we're here, together. And that, in itself, feels like a step forward. About 8 months after the affair was exposed, I felt like I was on the edge of something either incredibly promising or something that could shatter everything we had worked so hard to rebuild. While Emily and I had made significant progress, there were still those moments of doubt, especially when the wounds of betrayal were still so fresh in my mind. One of the biggest challenges was learning to let go of the past. There were times when I would think back to everything that happened and wonder if I could ever truly forgive her. I didn't want to be the person who constantly brought it up, who kept dragging us back to that place of hurt. But even now, there were days when I couldn't stop myself from feeling the sting of betrayal. Things were starting to feel normal again, at least, most of the time. We were back to having regular, easy conversations, and the emotional distance that had once defined our relationship was slowly disappearing. But then, one evening, something happened that made me question everything once again. It was a Thursday evening, and Emily had gone out with her friends to celebrate a birthday. It wasn't unusual for her to have these outings, and she always kept me updated. We had established a level of trust where I didn't feel the need to check in on her constantly, but when I got a text from her saying she was on her way home, something felt off. I was lying on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when I saw the name on the incoming call, Ethan. My stomach dropped. I couldn't believe it. It had been months since the affair ended, and I had worked so hard to believe that we were moving forward. Yet, here I was, staring at the name of the man who had shattered everything. I didn't answer. I didn't know what I would have said, but I stared at the phone for a few moments, feeling the weight of everything come crashing back. My mind was racing. Had she been lying to me all this time? Was she still in contact with him? Had we made any progress at all? A few minutes later, Emily texted me. "Sorry, I missed your call. I was just catching up with some old friends. Let's talk when I get home. Love you." I stared at the message. It seemed innocent enough, but the fact that Ethan's name had come up at all triggered something deep inside me. I could feel the anger bubbling up. Was she still hiding things from me? I had explicitly asked her to cut ties with him, and this felt like a breach of that trust. My mind was screaming at me to confront her, but I couldn't bring myself to do it just yet. When Emily came home, I could tell she was a little tipsy, nothing out of the ordinary, just the usual social buzz after a night out. But as soon as she walked in, I couldn't hide the tension I felt. "Hey," she said, looking around as she closed the door behind her. "Everything okay?" I didn't beat around the bush. "I got a call from Ethan just now," I said, my voice steady but firm. "Why?" Her face froze for a second, before she quickly looked away. "What?" she asked, trying to act casual. "I'm not mad you're out with friends," I said, trying to keep my cool. "But I am confused. You promised me you were done with him. And yet, I get a call from him after months of silence. What is going on?" Emily's eyes widened, and she took a step back. I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice soft, but I could see the guilt creeping into her expression. I showed her the phone log. "This isn't some mistake, Emily. Why was he calling you?" She took a deep breath, and for the first time in months, I saw the hesitation in her eyes. "I swear, it's nothing. It's not what you think." I wasn't buying it. "I need the truth, Emily. If you really want to rebuild my trust, you need to stop hiding things from me. Why was Ethan calling you?" Finally, she let out a long breath. "He called to check in on me," she said, lowering her gaze. "We've stayed in touch, but just as friends. I told him we couldn't talk anymore, but he reached out tonight to see how I was doing. And I should have told you about it earlier." I was floored. "Why didn't you?" I asked, my voice quiet. "I didn't want to hurt you," she said softly. "I thought if I didn't bring him up, we could just move on. I didn't want to drag all of this back up." Her words felt like a knife to my chest. I didn't know how to respond. We had come so far, and now I felt like we were back at square one. The trust one was working so hard to rebuild felt like it had been ripped away once again. The days after Emily's admission were some of the most confusing and painful I've faced in our marriage. She insisted that the call with Ethan was nothing more than a check-in, but that didn't change the fact that she had been hiding it from me. For the second time, I found myself asking if I could truly forgive her. That weekend, we decided to go to therapy together. I knew we needed a third party to help us navigate this, to understand if what we were experiencing was just another hurdle or if it was the final sign that we needed to end things. In therapy, I laid out all of my feelings, the hurt, the betrayal, the confusion. Emily apologized profusely and told me how badly she wanted to fix things. She explained that her contact with Ethan had been about trying to maintain some semblance of friendship, but she was fully committed to cutting him out again, for good. The therapist suggested that we take some time apart to let me process everything and to figure out what I needed from her moving forward. I left that session exhausted, emotionally drained. It became clear that there wasn't a simple answer to this. I had to make a decision about whether I wanted to try again, knowing that it would take time and effort from both of us. It's been a few weeks since that session. We're still living together, but I don't know where we stand. There are moments of connection and intimacy, but there are also moments when I feel like I can't breathe under the weight of everything that's happened. Emily has been open and committed to proving her loyalty, but I'm not sure if I can fully trust her again. I'm trying, but I don't know what the future holds. It's been a few weeks since I confronted Emily about her continued contact with Ethan. During that time, I've done a lot of soul-searching. I've spent hours talking to close friends and family, trying to make sense of everything that's happened. I've also been journaling to help process my emotions, but no matter how much I try to work through it, the doubt still lingers. Emily has been doing everything she can to prove she's committed to making this marriage work. She's cut all ties with Ethan for good, and she's been going to therapy on her own to work on her personal issues. I can see that she's trying, but every time I look at her, I'm reminded of the person she used to be, the person I thought I knew, before the affair. The person who had lied to me, hidden things from me, and broken my trust in the most painful way possible. I think back to all the times we laughed together, planned our future, and talked about our dreams. I remember the life we built, the house we bought, the dog we adopted, the vacations we took. Those memories still feel real, but they're tainted by everything that's happened. How do I move forward from here? One evening, Emily and I sat down to have one of the hardest conversations we've had since all of this began. I had been putting it off, hoping that time would help heal the wounds, but I realized that the only way to move forward was to make a choice. Emily, I started, my voice quiet but steady. I've been thinking a lot about everything. About the affair, about what's happened, and about us. I don't want to keep dragging this out, and I need to figure out where we go from here. Her face was filled with concern. I know I've hurt you more than I can ever explain, but I swear, I'm doing everything I can to make it right. I want us to heal. I want us to get back to the place we were. But I know it's up to you, and I'll respect whatever you decide. I took a deep breath. I've been trying so hard to figure out if I can forgive you, if I can trust you again. I want to believe that we can make this work, but I don't know if I can keep living with the fear that I'll never be able to trust you fully. That I'll always wonder if you're hiding something or if you'll betray me again. Emily looked down at her hands, tears welling up in her eyes. I understand, she whispered. I know I've given you every reason to doubt me, and I'm sorry. I'll do anything to earn your trust back, but I can't change the past. I know, I said softly, but we can change how we move forward. We can decide whether we want to keep fighting for this, or whether we've reached the point where it's time to walk away. There was a long pause, and in that moment, I felt the weight of everything. The love we had, the pain I was feeling, the uncertainty of what would happen next. I realized that no matter what I chose, it wouldn't be easy. But I couldn't keep living in this limbo. I needed to make a decision. I think we need to try again, I said, my voice thick with emotion. But it's not going to be easy. I can't promise that everything will be fine or that I'll be able to forgive you completely right away. But I'm willing to give us a chance. Emily's eyes widened, and she reached for my hand. Really? She asked, her voice trembling. I nodded. I'm willing to try, but you need to know that I can't just forget. I need to rebuild my trust in you, and that's going to take time. I need you to be patient with me, just as I'm willing to be patient with you. Tears streamed down her face as she squeezed my hand. I promise, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll be patient. I'll work harder than I ever have to show you that I'm worthy of your trust. I won't give up on us. It felt like a weight was lifted off my chest. I knew that this was just the beginning of a long road to healing, but for the first time in months, I felt like we had a chance. A real chance. Since that conversation, Emily and I have continued to work on rebuilding our relationship. It hasn't been perfect. There are still moments of doubt, moments when I wonder if I'm making the right choice. But there are also moments of genuine connection, when we laugh together, when we talk openly, when I see that she's doing everything she can to be a better partner. And those moments give me hope. We're still in therapy, both individually and as a couple. We've made progress, but there's still a long way to go. Rebuilding trust is a slow process, and we're taking it one day at a time. Emily continues to be open, honest, and transparent with me, and that's been key to restoring some of the trust we lost. I don't know what the future holds for Emily and me. Maybe we'll come out of this stronger, or maybe we'll realize that we're better off apart. But for now, I'm choosing to fight for us. I'm choosing to believe that we can heal. I'm choosing to trust, even if it's hard. It's not a fairy tale ending, and it's not easy. But it's our story, and we're writing it together, one page at a time.